Free the smart meter data. I'm your host, David Roberts. Thanks in no small part to Obama stimulus spending, there are something like 115 million smart meters, or advanced metering infrastructure, AMI in the lingo, installed on buildings nationwide. Around 80% of ratepayers have one. Unlike analog meters read once a month by a human meter reader, smart meters are digital and produce real-time information on energy usage that is transmitted to the utility. Consumers could, at least theoretically, use that information to inform energy management tools or third-party services that help them to reduce energy usage, participate in demand response programs, and save money. For consumers to do that, however, the information has to be accessible, and in the vast majority of cases, U.S. power utilities bottle it up. They turn off features of smart meters or keep the information in proprietary, difficult-to-access formats. The result is a patchwork that makes growing a demand response or other distributed energy business unnecessarily difficult. Michael Murray leads Mission Data, a coalition of businesses that has been waging a campaign to free smart meter data to make it easily accessible on a real-time basis in standardized formats to consumers and those with whom they choose to share it for some 8 years now. I'm going to talk with him about the power of this data, what might be done with it, and how it might be pried from utility hands. So utilities are saying this is our information. So even me as a consumer, like if I wanted to get that information from the utility and give it to someone else so that they could help me, say, reduce my power consumption, I can't. I have no legal right to that data. Is that right?
I think utilities realize that even depriving you from having that information is a non-starter. So what they've done is they said, okay, we'll provide a website where you go pay your bill and you can get your information, but it's only for you. It's for your eyes only. And maybe we'll make it available in a downloadable format of some sort. But if you ever wanted an automated connection to an energy management service, that's when the hammer comes down.
Like you can't be downloading PDFs and emailing them to some company that's trying to do real-time demand response.
Exactly. And that's where the wheels come off. And so our argument is that, particularly because they're monopolies, because we have no choice in the selection of these meters and the technology, that we ought to be able to say, with a click of a button, I want my information sent to, this heat pump installer, or I want it sent to this demand response company, or whoever I want for whatever purpose.
Or not even so much sent to them as I want them to have real-time access to it so they can see it in real time.
Correct. And we can get into, the historical information versus real time and their different sort of channels. But the point is that has been a battleground, because going back to, 2009, the rhetoric from utilities was this very lofty, smart meters are going to be these magical things that, get your data from your meter, and then they, help your devices and appliances respond in real time, that sort of thing. Well, the utilities realized we just want to provide this information to the customer. We don't actually want these devices and other companies and other people having a view into what's going on. They oftentimes, these are monopolies. They act to protect that monopoly. And part of that sort of defense is keeping out, aggregators and other sources of, air quotes, competition, whatever that might mean.
Yeah. And it is worth noting that almost any use case that a third party would have for your information would be in the context of helping you use less energy, right? Like helping you reduce your energy consumption, which of course the utility doesn't necessarily want to help you do.
I've tried to point out that, we do similar things with, highway funding. We don't say only
tons of conditions on highway funding. That's like a major, that's a major policy lever over the states.
That's right. That's a big one. States also have rules governing broadband funding. And similarly, we do the same thing with healthcare data now.
Right.
So you can actually be fined as a hospital, and you can have your Medicare reimbursements denied if you are found to have blocked the exchange of patient data at the patient's request.
And that's also in a standardized format, right? Like that's the same set of concerns over on that side.
That's right. And they've made some really excellent strides in the last 5 years. A lot of this is under the radar in the healthcare space, making more APIs available. It can be done securely. We're talking about literally some of the most sensitive information about you. And it can absolutely be done. We see this done in the banking sector. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has a rulemaking open right now that would penalize banks for refusing to share your transaction history or loan information with another financial institution at your request. And so the whole idea behind this is when there's, federal oversight involved, we want customers to have choices. We want, that just comes with the territory. Yeah. And my argument is if the utilities aren't prepared to provide, this information on sort of an open, non-discriminatory basis, then they shouldn't be eligible to receive any money.
I mean, it's so obvious. It's such an obvious analogous case. Like we do this for healthcare information. We do this for banking information. It's just very obvious. We ought to be doing this for electricity information too. It's just once again like utilities with a public grant of monopoly lobbying for their own interests against the public interest. Lots of times using ratepayer money to do so, just to put a cherry on top of the whole thing.
That's right. There's an ecosystem of companies that want to provide services in this area, right? Like especially with the IRA money on electrification and heat pumps and do you need an electrical panel upgrade? Well, let's look at your smart meter data and see if we can, avoid that $10,000, upgrade to a, 400 amp service or something like that. So there's a lot of different uses for it. And I would encourage people to, think about the services that they want and try to articulate, those data needs. Also,
just some sort of arcane privacy or data access thing. This is the distributed energy ecosystem that we all envision for the future is not possible without this kind of shared information. So this is a big deal. This is a stopper on top of a lot of other good things. So worth
absolutely
everybody tuning into. Thank you so much.